New York City is buckling under the migrant crisis. If you guys are wondering why New York right now is doing a sudden U-turn on the migrant crisis, it's really boiling down to the money issue. When you're spending $9.2 billion alone per year on your city for the migrant crisis, whereas your own domestic homeless population is on the streets, there's a drug problem, there's an enormous shoplifting problem, and when you're focusing all your resources, all your expertise just on the migrant crisis alone, of course, you have several corporations, hedge funds, financial companies, small mom and pop stores, and your average millionaire leaving New York City. It's 2024, guys. Do you have to be in New York City? Absolutely not. People are now doing business in non-traditional cities like Vegas, Austin, Houston, Tampa, and Miami. Nobody wants to be in these sanctuary cities any longer. Check this out. Looks like sanctuary city status law falls in the hands of the New York City Council to modify. Recently, the New York City Mayor, Eric Adams, stated that he wants to deport migrants who are committing violent felonies and to all be turned over to ICE. This is a big U-turn because Mayor Adams is a big advocate for New York City to become like the biggest sanctuary city in the United States. And they're doing it, right? You got 100 to 200,000 migrants coming in and out of the city, and the city's basically going broke. In fact, they're giving migrants more money than our own domestic population, about $14 a day versus about $8 to $9 a day for Americans for food stamps, the things that you need, toilet paper, etc., like the essentials. So migrants essentially are getting double the amount of the average citizen. I mean, why be an American citizen when you could be a migrant and get way more money? And that's why everyone's just kind of mad about it, right? Because there's also a talk of fairness. And one of the biggest things in the migrant crisis is New York is okay with migrants. Don't forget that. New York is built by migrants. But the thing is, New York City just took in so many migrants at such a short amount of time, they're running out of money. And even people in places like Harlem, right? Even people in places like the Bronx, all the way to the very wealthy areas like Midtown Manhattan, downtown Brooklyn. No matter where you are, everyone right now is mad about the mayor and the New York City migrant crisis. They're going broke. They don't have enough money left at this point. New York mayor calls for an end to the sanctuary cities amid migrant crisis, and has pretty much been calling for a radical overhaul of its status and a massive U-turn. The city is buckling under the weight of migrant arrivals. And Eric Adams has faced a lot of backlash as schools, hotels, and community centers have been turned over to almost 200,000 migrants. He has been warned that this is destroying the city. In fact, the citizens of Harlem are actually, surprisingly, finally standing up to themselves, which is very nice to see. The citizens of Harlem and Manhattan says they're done with the migrant crisis. They don't like this anymore. None of the money ever gets trickled down to them. Okay, and Eric Adams was about to turn an empty condo building to a migrant shelter instead of turning an empty condo building in Harlem into a place for the domestic neighborhood citizens, which many of them are being forced out because of gentrification. Many of them are homeless because the job market is very tough in New York. And does Eric Adams ever change that condo building into a place for domestic citizens? No, he wanted to change it to a big migrant shelter, which eventually he was forced not to because the Harlem City Council, when everyone was super mad about the situation. Hopefully New York recovers. This is a great city, but it's not going to be great when all they're doing every single day is the migrant crisis. Shoplifting is high, crime is super high, and I don't dare to step foot into Times Square. Even the New York City governor, she was caught off guard by Mayor Adams for a sudden push of another $1.6 whopping billion in funding. Guys, the amount of funding for the Veteran Affairs Office for all of 2025 is only about 50-ish million bucks for the whole entire country. And they're spending about almost $10 billion on the migrant crisis for one single city. Not to mention of the no-bid contracts, we're also seeing the products, the services for the migrants being super expensive, very, very high. New York taxpayers are basically being fleeced. Now, the New York governor says that she cannot keep providing this sort of money because there is a limit to how much money you could spend on the migrant crisis, and New York is already spending a lot of money. And the biggest thing is, can New York even get this money back? Because you got $50 to $60 million credit cards, you got debit cards, You got hotels, just one single hotel in Manhattan, they're charging like the city $7 million a month. And that's just one hotel with just maybe like 1,000 migrants. And we're looking at almost 200,000 people. So do the math, and yeah, they're taking billions of dollars. But can they make the billions of dollars back? No, because so many companies are now leaving New York City and they're no longer coming back. You got hedge fund, big corporations, and many guys on Wall Street are just sick and tired every single day. People don't really understand why New York City had to do this crazy migrant situation. I mean, they already have so many people. Nobody's happy right now, and everyone is now leaving. Okay? I don't understand. Like, what's up with so many American cities that just can't just be normal for once? And it feels like the last bastions in the US where you get normal cities are probably in like 3 states: Nevada, Texas, and Florida. That's really about it. And by the way, Times Square is no better, especially now. Times Square is now known as somewhere that's very, very dangerous. You got people involving in brawls. You got shootouts in Times Square and people getting stabbed outside the Hard Rock Cafe. Not exactly the best thing to show for, especially Times Square is just a massive tourist hotspot. And when tourists see this sort of violence, they will never come back to the city. And they'll probably tell their friends not to go to New York City as well. There is no control at this point. The city, they don't have enough funding. With so many corporations, big banks, and hedge funds taking trillions, not billions, trillions of dollars away from Manhattan and Brooklyn to places like Miami. New York City is facing a lot of competition in terms of companies and startups. New York City is facing a lot of competition for the north. Toronto, 8-hour drive from New York City, so I guess it's somewhere close. There's also like direct airports, and there's even like a train connecting to it. Toronto is now dubbed like the new Manhattan of the North. Surprisingly, there's a lot of American hedge funds over there. And Miami dubbed Wall Street South, and recently even opened up their first trading floor. That's a big attack and punch in New York City's face, which is known to be one of the biggest finance hubs in the world. And they also have guys in Vegas and Austin, which is having a lot of tech companies and even a lot of fintech companies as well. New York City, San Francisco, Chicago are no longer the desirable places to go for young talent. There's also a big talent drain from New York City, whereas many corporations are leaving these sanctuary cities to better cities in the South. We're seeing a lot of these sanctuary cities, right? A lot of these coastal cities doing really, really bad. There's even a poll showing off coastal cities like New York City, San Fran, and Seattle having a massive population decline despite the U.S. population having a massive increase. This is what's happening. And can New York recover from this? I don't really know, right? They're still doing the migrant crisis. It's still going pretty strong. Not to mention there's even protests and even trucker boycotts. New York right now just can't catch a break. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment below, and how would you solve the New York City problem?